A very good afternoon to one and all. Firstly, we, the team WISE 2020, apologize for the change in session timings, and we are very sorry for the inconvenience caused due to the reschedule of the session. I, Prashant Kurdekar, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, SJEC, with pride and privilege, welcome you all to the webinar series WISE 2020 on topic Writing a Research Proposal. Today, we have with us a young, dynamic, and a vibrant personality, Dr. Rajalakshmi Chauhan, Assistant Professor, Indian Institute of Technology, Jodhpur, for the webinar series WISE 2020. Madam, we are happy with your kind gesture for accepting our invitation and making it possible to join us in this event. On behalf of entire SJC family, I extend a heartily welcome to you, Madam. I wholeheartedly welcome our beloved HOD, Principal and Management to this event. I extend a warm welcome to Ms. Pranamya, Assistant Professor and Convener of this webinar series. I welcome all my fellow faculty and staff members of SJC to this session. With great pleasure and respect, I welcome all the participants present here who are the main pillars for the great success of this session. Thank you one and all. We have with us our beloved HOD, Dr. Yagneshwaran B, who is the major driving force in conducting such a splendid event. I request Sir to speak a few words on this event.
Okay. Good afternoon all. I express my gratitude to Dr. Rajalakshmi Chauhan, IIT Jodhpur, for accepting our invitation for today's session in WISE 2020. I wish all the best to this program, and once again I welcome our chief guest and all the participants to this session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are on the verge of the much awaited event to begin. Before we start, let me take a moment to introduce our resource person of the session. Dr. Rajalakshmi Chauhan is an assistant professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology, Jodhpur. She received her PhD in the year 2015 from IIT Kharagpur, and her research interests include image processing, image quality assessment, noise-aided image enhancement and applications. She received the research grant under the Early Career Research Award from SERB DST Government of India for her research on noise-aided edge preserving denoising. Dr. Chauhan regularly conducts workshop series on communication skills for students at IIT Jodhpur that include sessions on technical writing, formal writing, presentation skills, and document processing. Dr. Chauhan received the IST L&T National Award for Best MTech Thesis in Electrical and Electronic Engineering, awarded by Indian Society for Technical Education, New Delhi, India, in the year 2012. In the year 2014, Dr. Chauhan received the IEEE Region 10 Asia Pacific Women in Engineering Student Volunteer Award, awarded by the IEEE Region 10 Asia Pacific Women in Engineering. In the year 2015, Dr. Chauhan received Premium Award for Best Paper in IET Image Processing, awarded by the Institute of Engineering and Technology, UK. Dr. Chauhan received the Teaching Excellence Award 2019 at IIT Jodhpur and the 2019 Late Shri Prahalad Chabbaria Award for Best Woman Professional Early Career by HFRC IEEE, India Council and WIE Pune section. Madam has also published 4 papers in national conference, 14 papers in international conference, and 8 papers in international journals. With this brief introduction, I present before you Dr. Rajalakshmi Chauhan. Now, I request Madam to take the lead.
Namaste. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Prashant Kurdekar and SJC family, Dr. Yagneshwaran, Ms. Pranamya, and everyone for having me here today. Thank you so much. And I'm really sorry about having to reschedule in the morning. So I'm going to share my screen now. And in today's session, I'll basically be talking about my experience as a young faculty member in writing the first research proposal for a government agency. And in this talk, I would be covering some basic elements of a research proposal. how to write a budget, what are the important things that you need to remember while writing a budget, and some lessons that I have learned, as in when you process your first proposal, there are always some mistakes that you make. So I'll be sharing certain things that I did not know about in the beginning, so that maybe the same mistakes are not repeated by anyone. So this is briefly the organization of my talk today. We start with what is the meaning of a research proposal. So a research proposal is essentially a document where you are proposing a research project, right? Generally in sciences or academia, it can be outside as well. It generally constitutes a request for sponsorship of that research. So you're basically making you're proposing an idea which you want to execute, and for that you're requesting for support. And by support, we mean financial support. So what purpose should a research proposal meet? Like, what should be the objective? What should, if somebody is reading somebody's research proposal, what is the objective? What are the criteria that it should meet? So here are certain criteria. So we need to propose a research project which will result in a significant contribution to knowledge base. So to the existing knowledge base, whatever idea that we are proposing, that should result in a significant outcome or significant impact it should have on the existing knowledge base. The idea of making a proposal is also to formulate a detailed plan of the project, and it should include a methodological approach. It should include a theoretical framework of what you want to do. Right? So your proposed work plan is a very, very important aspect of a research proposal. When writing a research proposal, you also need to specify so that everybody knows that whatever research objective you are proposing to achieve, it is achievable within a required time, right? And with certain resources which you would be requesting. Either you have them available with you or you're requesting. So we also need to outline what is the time frame, how much funding is required, and what resources are actually required. In a research proposal, we also need to demonstrate that whatever area of work we are proposing to work in, we possess the adequate expertise that is required to execute this proposal till the very end. Right? So we're making an idea, we're proposing an idea, but we need to have, and we need to demonstrate that in the proposal that we submit, that we have the required expertise, or we're able to gather the required expertise required to execute such a project. So these are primarily the basic purposes that a research proposal should meet. Moving on, what are the components of a research proposal? So what the overall structure that I'm discussing here today is essentially from Department of Science and Technology, because I understand that since this is WIC, civil engineering, right? So primarily when you'll be looking for a funding agency, suppose you're looking for a government funding agency, one of the most popular and very generous agency is the Government of India's Department of Science and Technology. And under Science and Technology, there is this Science and Engineering Research Board, SERB, 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 right? And they float, they have an area on engineering sciences, under which all our engineering areas come. So like I'm from electrical engineering, you're from civil engineering, different engineering disciplines will fall under the umbrella of engineering sciences, right? So the components of a research proposal that I'm talking about today, this structure is actually required by SERB, that is DST under engineering sciences. And particularly if somebody is writing their first research proposal, suppose this is an early career research award for which you're applying. Early career research award means you're applying for a research grant in early career, like maybe first 3 to 5 years of joining an institute, like right after PhD. So that is actually the scope of the presentation that I'm making today. When I'm talking about the different components of a research proposal, that is the research proposal I'm actually focusing on. Overall, broadly, every research proposal actually calls for these components. Right? Every research proposal will require these elements to be filled in. So the first point is origin of the proposal. Right? That means a scientific rationale for the proposed work. you've got an idea, and you need to actually justify why that idea needs to be executed. Like what are you trying to do with that idea? So the origin or the background of the proposal, this is usually the first section of any research proposal, right? So scientific rationale. What is the reason behind the proposed work? Why should someone engage in such a work, or why should someone fund such a work? Right? So background, why, and the motivation. This is primarily origin of the proposal. This is normally, like if you download any research template, it is going to specify what is the page limit. Like this could be 1 page or 1.5 page or half a page. So this is usually written in the template. How much area should this particular section cover? Next is review of status of research and development. This is again, while proposing any idea, it's very important that the reviewer should know the area or the topic in which you are proposing some new contribution. Right? What is the current state of the art in that area? And typically DST Sir, that would require you to have a detailed review of international as well as national state of the art in that area. So state of the art means what is the updated technology in that area that you're proposing, right? So in this, you need to include recent references and a very detailed critical review. In critical review, you do not have to, like, it does not literally mean criticizing a work. Critical review essentially means that you study what a current algorithm or what a current technology does and what it doesn't do, right? So you identify gaps essentially. When you do a critical review, you do a detailed pro and con analysis of everything that is existing in literature. So this is also known as literature review. Literature review is again a very, very important part while writing any research proposal or even a research paper. Again, the recent as well as the state of the art, the best in that area, all those things have to be listed here. Then under the review of status of R&D, it's also important to elaborate and explain what is the significance of your idea. That means you need to identify the gaps in the current state of the art, in the current literature. So for example, there are certain algorithms or certain technologies that address ABC problems, but in this category of problems, there is no solution yet available in literature, right? So you've identified a gap in literature, and that is the gap that you want to address. So this part is again very important, because any reviewer while reviewing your proposal might ask the question, if this question is already solved by someone else, why should we fund you, right? So what is your novelty, or what is going to be your contribution in this work? This is the part where you highlight it. And this is very, very important, because this distinguishes your proposal from the millions of other proposals that might be being submitted, right? What is the novelty? What is the contribution that you are going to bring, or your idea brings to the table? Now, this next subsection, basis for location selection, depends on which category of proposal you are applying for. So like normally, if it's a technology, it's a overall technology based project, then location is independent, right? But for example, in civil engineering, if you are talking about, say, earthquake resistant structural analysis in some particular geographical region or some particular terrain, in that case, if location is important for your work, for your proposal, then why you are selecting that location, that basis is also to be explained. This may vary from area to area. This, again, the next part is very, very important, which is the work plan. So work plan actually needs to clearly, in a very crisp and lucid way, needs to define what is the scope of your work and what are the objectives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, say these are the 5 objectives that we want to achieve, for which we are writing this proposal. The scope basically means what is the framework under which you are operating. So for example, like if I'm working in the area of image quality assessment, right? there are n number of types of images, like there are medical images, there are aerial images, there may be satellite images, there may be real world images. Different types of images are there. So while writing a proposal, I need to define what is the scope, what is the framework in which I'll be working. So I'll be dealing with real world images, or I'll be dealing with medical images of this type. Say I'm dealing with CT images, or I'm dealing with X-ray images, or I'm dealing with MRI images. So what exactly is the scope of your work needs to be clarified, because a research objective should not be vague, as in it should not be very open-ended, in the sense that the proposal should not sound like what you are trying to do will solve all the problems of the world, right? Because there is no universal algorithm or universal solution for anything. So this is very important, that you identify and clearly outline the scope, and you also clearly identify these are the objectives. Why? Because later on, when you will say when your project gets accepted, right, and when a review meeting happens, these 5 points, these 5 objectives that you've actually listed will be asked. So how many of these objectives could you meet? How many of these you could not meet? Why? So identifying these objectives is very important. Next is the methodology. Here, you need to clearly explain in details how these objectives that you've mentioned, how you're going to achieve them. So of course, while asking for a grant, or you're asking for support, obviously you have not solved those problems. Otherwise, if the problems were already solved, you don't need money for it, right? It's something you've already solved. But you need to have a very clear idea and plan about how these objectives can be met. So that is where some preliminary results are important. Like you've done some rough work, some rough experiments, some preliminary work, that is what it's called, which tell you that, okay, if this is the approach that can solve problem A or sub-problem A, then probably this particular area can be explored. These tools can be explored. These algorithms could be explored, or this approach can be used to improve or develop certain algorithm which can solve a bigger problem. So this is where details on how each objective would be met needs to be written. Means the solution doesn't need to be written, but an overall, like a proposed block diagram or a proposed framework, that is what needs to be written. Right? Detailed and clear plans. This section is where you make a lot of block diagrams, you put tables of whatever data you have, or what findings you have made till the time. There need to be figures. There should be, if it is mathematical, equations, charts, right? Preliminary results, like I said before, and some sort of explanation and justification of why your plan would work. Meaning you need to have some sort of back data that says, this is where we tried so-and-so approach and it worked, and that is what makes us believe that this methodology has the potential to solve this particular problem. This section also should identify a list of tasks, because suppose you're making a proposal for a period of 3 years. That means you need to list each of the tasks that you actually need to follow to achieve those objectives that you've listed. So this is one of the most detailed sections of a research proposal, where you need to, it's kind of a difficult section to write, because you've not solved the problem yet, right? And it's quite possible that what you think might solve the problem may not actually in the end solve the problem. So this section is a little tricky, but this is what requires a lot of prior experience, or a lot of preliminary data, a lot of preliminary results to report or make certain assertions. Also in the work plan is time schedule. That means, like I said, there will be certain tasks that you should list that need to be conducted in a particular sequence to achieve the objectives that you just mentioned in the previous subsection. You also need to give a time frame for each of those tasks. That means a time plan, some sort of schedule, and typically a bar chart or a Gantt chart is used. Your timelines should be realistic, and it should be divided defined for each of the tasks. So here is an example of a Gantt chart. So on the first column, you are basically writing all the names of the tasks that you need to do. So for example, this is just a rough example, say planning, research, design, implementation, follow-up. These are some tasks that you've defined in your project. So based on the duration, suppose it doesn't have to be quarterly like it is shown here. It can be monthly, or it can be it can be quarterly, it can be yearly, but it would be better to have a more refined task, because say if your project is of 2 years, right? So it is better to define or divide the entire timeline month-wise. And then you basically shade the areas that you will be dedicating your time towards a particular task. So say here it says planning. So January to March, the authors have planned that they will do planning. Then February, March, along with planning, research will also start. So it's not necessary that these individual timelines would be exclusive, because practically it would not happen that one task will be over only then the next task will start. No, you will have an actual research team working on it. So there would obviously be overlaps. So the review panel basically wants to know what is the approximate timeline that you want to achieve different tasks in. How much time would planning take? How much time would prototyping take? Things like that. So time schedule is again a very important aspect. Next, research deliverables and the impact. Now, this is another very important aspect that any review, grant review committee would be interested in. That is to know what is the concrete, tangible output of your proposal. So you need to clearly outline that at the end of the project, if I have these many resources, if this plan is executed as you expect, the output will be A, B, C, and D. That means, just for example, suppose you're making an image enhancement system, for example. So one deliverable of such a system is, say there would be an app at the end of the project. There would be an app which would be freely available to everyone, as an example, right? So it's a tangible prototype of the work that we have done. The deliverable of a project does not always have to be a prototype. That is not really mandatory. But if it is a prototype, if it is something that can be actually transferred to the industry, that would create a very big impact on your work, on your proposal. The next thing is the plan of utilization and what impact it would have. That means, suppose, again, the funding agency is giving you money, right, to solve a particular problem. So the problem that you are solving should have a significant impact on people's lives, or to the knowledge base, or to the overall well-being of society. So the significance and impact of this work should be highlighted very clearly. How your work affects society, how it will make people's lives better. This needs to be very clearly identified. Now, again, in environmental impact and assessment and risk analysis, this is not very relevant for many disciplines. But then again, for civil engineering, if you are developing some technology, or you're creating some structures which would have some impact on the neighborhood or on the neighboring terrain, that kind of assessment and risk analysis also needs to be included. The next section of the research proposal is expertise. And this is what I was talking about before, where the person who's writing the proposal, who's the main in charge of the proposal, essentially, that person is called the principal investigator, PI, right? So what is the expertise available with the principal investigator? And if there are some co-principal investigators, which are called co-PIs. So a proposal does not need to be written by one person alone always. It can be a collaboration of multiple faculty members. It can be written in collaboration between academia and industry. It can have multiple organizations that actually, together want to put their resources together, put their minds together, and they can write a proposal. It is often, it's considered more advantageous if you have agencies which already work in that area, if you have industry partnership. However, for the early career research award, the ECRA that I'm talking about, that normally does not allow multiple co-PIs. For ECRN, there needs to be one PI. But all other funding schemes usually allow multiple PIs. So in this stage, we need to establish how much skill do we have in executing the problem statement that we have proposed. So here we would need to, the PIs would need to write about their publications, say key publications in the past 5 years in the theme relevant to the proposal. If you have any patents, if you again have some preliminary results for the same area. So these are the things which would be required. You would also need a detailed summary of if there are multiple PIs, then what will be the role and responsibility of each PI that needs to be very clearly outlined. Often along with the proposal, a biodata of the PI is also supposed to be submitted, all PIs. And then in the end, you have a bibliography, which is a complete list of references and any other resource, which like we write for any research paper, you would have a list of resources and you would have in the text, you would have citation, like especially the literature review or certain tools that you will be using for your methodology. So this is essentially the structure broadly of a research proposal, and we have not yet covered the most important aspect, which I'll come to later. But certain more things, like there are two more important things which usually a research proposal, the DST research proposal asks, and that is what is available with you. Before you ask for something from an agency, you need to outline what is already available with you. So infrastructural facilities which are available, that means if your parent institution is extending certain facilities, what are those? For example, there may be like a checklist where you would say, you would have to say, power is available, office space is available, backup generators may be available. So there would be a checklist in your proposal. From that, you would have to see and make a decision of what facilities the parent institution is already offering to you. And what equipment, along with the infrastructural facilities, what equipment is available with you. Now comes the most important part of this proposal, where you actually make a request for the funding, and that is the budget. So for preparation of a budget, what exactly do agencies fund, right? So whenever you're asking for where you're writing a research proposal, you're asking for funding support. There are certain criteria. So one thing is the eligibility of the PI, which would be considered, means some proposals would require that you must have a PhD, or you must have a, say if you're from the medical field, you must have an MS in medicine. So that eligibility criteria needs to be seen. The duration for which you are asking the funding, that, and grant amount. So these three actually together would be considered while asking for support. So what is the support typically provided for by these agencies? Broadly speaking, these are the headings. One is equipment, manpower, consumables, travel, and contingency. In addition to these 5 headings, there is always a percentage called overhead that actually goes to your parent institute. This may be 10% or so that amount may vary from project to project or from scheme to scheme. But there's some amount, some percentage of overhead that actually goes to the institute and can be added to your professional development fund based on your institute's policies. So these are basically the broad headings of a budget. And what does equipment mean? Equipment means computational facilities and non-recurring purchase. So for example, like I work in the area of image processing. So what are the equipment that I would need to conduct research? I would need computers, I would need workstations, high computational facilities, fast facilities. I'll need workstations and computers. Then to capture images, I need certain types of cameras. Then to process or to simulate, I would need some software. So all these are one-time purchases, right, for your project. So all this comes under non-recurring purchase. Purchase is divided into recurring and non-recurring. I'll not go into the details of that, but so equipment comes under all the facilities, covers all the facilities that you would want to buy. Then comes manpower. While you are proposing manpower budget, you're basically talking, depending on what your scheme allows, you're talking about junior research fellows, JRF. You could also have a senior research fellow, SRF. You would want budget to actually fund a PhD student. You could also ask for a fellowship for a postdoctoral fellow. So that needs to be clearly defined in your budget. Now, while you're writing the manpower proposal, you also need to consider how much of do you want to give HRA? That HRA needs to be included. The duration, so say first 2 years you want to offer this much fellowship, and then third year the fellowship amount can be increased to this much. So that calculation has to be written. It's also important at this stage that HRA should be included. All right, because if you do not ask for HRA, they will not give you HRA. Next is consumables. So I'll come to what has to be written during proposal. Next is consumables. Consumables are usually like stationery, storage devices, something that you would consume. Okay, something that would be consumed during the course of the project. Most usually this is stationery. Then comes travel. So it is expected that you would write papers, you would publish papers in conferences as well as SCI index journals. So to attend conferences, there is a upper cap of how much travel amount there can be from the proposal. So like for DST, it is 1,50,000. This is the maximum cap on travel. In this travel, the PI or the co-PI or the project staff or the PhD student associated with your project should be able to make a journey for the purpose of project. This would also include the travel that you may need to incur as a part of the project for attending review meetings or for for collaborations. You have a project meeting somewhere with your collaborator. That should be covered. And then there's this section called contingency, some miscellaneous component, which is like a backup which you give. So it's a very small amount. So this is essentially broadly the broad areas where support is provided that your budget should have, these other components that your budget should have. Also, they may ask you to propose to break all of these year-wise. So in first year, what do you need? In the second year, what do you need? In the third year, what do you need? If it is a 3-year project. Okay. So during the proposal submission, what all would be needed? You would need to justify why you need a certain equipment. You also need to specify model and make of the equipment, how much quantity you need, some estimate of cost. It does not have to be exact cost. And then, like I said, a year-wise requirement. So like for the manpower, for the JRF, first year, this much of salary is required, second year, this much, third year, this much, like that. So what is roughly the process? The whole process, the whole cycle. Okay, I'm not covering closure right now, but just to start with, so you have an idea and you identify a call for proposal. So funding agency will usually announce calls for proposals. You download the template, you submit the proposal. It is reviewed by a panel, a committee of experts. Then you receive the review results. Once the review results are announced, suppose your proposal is accepted, then the agency will ask you submit the quotations for each of the equipment that you have requested. Submit quotations, and then there may also be some other documents, like there'll be some undertaking from your institute. What would happen in case you leave the institute? Who will take care of the project? So these kind of undertakings, these kind of certificates need to be given by your institute. Are you a regular faculty member? So these kind of certificates need to be issued by the institute. Also, when the amount is sanctioned, to which account it needs to come. So the institute would have some sort of current account for projects. So your institute would have an R&D office, right? So who actually deals with these details? So this is where you would have to submit those documents. Once that is done, you receive a sanction letter based on the quotations that you've submitted. You would receive a sanction letter that would say this much amount is sanctioned for your project, and you would receive the first installment. So the day your first installment is received, that is the starting date of your project. That's the first day of your project. So the duration, suppose you had applied for a project of 3 years. That is the day one of your project. Then you start with all the purchase. So again, here is where your institute's purchase section comes into picture. You would follow the general financial rules of 2017 and update further updates or amendments that may be there. So again, this is a very important step, because many a times new faculty members do not really know the process of purchase, right? We have in the beginning, the first time, we may not have even heard of GFR 2017. So this is where the purchase section, purchase office of the institute you need to ask for guidance from them. What are the rules? What are the regulations? What should happen? This is the equipment. This is the quotation. Now what do I have to do? What is the process? It may happen that suppose your equipment is more than 25,000. So you may have to form a local purchase committee. So all that process has to be done as soon as the installment is released. Even if it is done, the sooner the better. Now, Government of India has also released this government e-marketplace. It's like Amazon for all government agencies, which is called GEM. That is also something that can be explored. So GFR, General Financial Rules, actually outline all the procedures for different types of purchases. This is very important because this should be completed as soon as possible, especially equipment. If you've got the equipment grant, you should spend it as soon as possible. So this is where a lot of planning is required. Then at the end of each year of your project, you would be asked to submit an annual utilization certificate. How much of fund was utilized? There would need to be a statement of expenditure, which we called SOE, and a progress report. Means what work was done in that year, what was done in that year, which part of the objective was achieved, to what extent. So those things have to be written. This has to be done every year. It may also, so the release of next installment actually depends on the punctuality with which you submit the UC, the utilization certificates and statement of expenditure, right? And it may happen that for an annual review or at the end of your project, that depends, varies from scheme to scheme and the board, you may be called for a project review meeting. Meaning annually there may be a meeting where you would be asked to go and you would have to present what you did, like a short 15-minute presentation, and justify what you are doing, how much of objectives have been met, what are the shortcomings, this much of fund has been utilized, all those things. So this would continue until you receive your last installment, after which you will have to submit a closure report. And progress review meetings are at the end of progress review meeting, you would actually get a grade that says that tells about the overall it's like a rating for your performance as a PI, and that actually stays on your, it's like your report card. So like next time when you will submit a project, how you did in your previous project, that I think plays a role. So these are certain things which are usually like not written in FAQs, but this is just some observation that I've made. Okay. Now coming to what I have learned, or what mistakes you should not do in the beginning. Okay. So some bottlenecks that can actually, you wrote a very good proposal, you got the funding, everything is there, you've received the funds also. Still, there may be certain bottlenecks which may, hinder the smooth execution of a project. The first being the process of purchase. Like I said, this is where inexperienced or new faculty members need to take advice from other seniors who may have gone through this, and get to know the complete purchase procedure from the purchase section or from the account section. Also, always maintain a stock register. Your institute may be maintaining a stock register for non-recurring equipment. You need to maintain a stock register for your own consumables as well as non-consumables, right? Recruitment of manpower. So here I'll share an experience. So what happened was, in my case, I received the first installment, which was completely equipment. So I received, as the first installment, I received the complete amount for equipment. But the installment that had non-recurring component, that is manpower. That came a few months later, right? So my project has started, but because there was no fund for manpower, I did not hire a JRF for the first couple of months. There was a solution for this where I could have taken an advance from the institute and hired a JRF right away. And then later when that funding comes, that could have been, that loan kind of a thing could have been repaid. So because I did not know this in the beginning and I did not find out, I wasted a couple of months in the beginning of the project, not being able to hire the JRF. Right? Then utilization certificate and statement of expenditure are again very crucial for release of subsequent installments. A slight error in date or totaling can derail the smooth process. So it's always important that the PI very carefully checks the utilization certificates with the R&D office and then submits it. This usually takes a little time. So this has to be done at the end of financial year. So like the process should start right away. Like from February onwards, you should start compiling what you wanted to purchase. Everything should be done, and by March, you'll be able to get a utilization certificate. Okay. Then some requests and deadlines. So for example, there is a very well-made online portal for DST where you can submit proposals, you get notifications, you can upload. It's a complete online platform. It is very convenient. There are certain things when you submit requests over there. There are certain things that you may not know from beforehand. So for example, the project gets over and you want to apply for extension, right? So there is a certain time frame in which you need to apply for extension. These things may not be written explicitly in certain places, but there are certain time frames within which extension should be applied, after which the portal will not allow you to apply. So those kind of things, there may be certain deadlines which the PI needs to very carefully keep a note of. Okay? So these are some of the observations that I've made. Another thing is, when you publish any paper, it's very important that if that paper is a result of a proposal which is funded by an agency, then that grant needs to be acknowledged in that paper. Right? Like you must have seen in various research papers written in the footnote, the authors acknowledge so-and-so research grant or so-and-so research fund for supporting this work. So if you kind of take care of these bottlenecks, these are some of the bottlenecks that you may face as a first-time proposal author. But if you just keep in mind these certain things and just keep a track of all deadlines, things will sail very smoothly. So that was it from my side. Thank you very much. You are free. Feel free to write to me. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have right now. So I hope you enjoy the process of writing proposals. Technical writing is again a very important aspect, and formatting, proofreading. So that's again a separate discussion altogether. But I hope that you enjoy the process of writing a proposal and your ideas actually get realized. That'll be a great contribution. So thank you. With that, I end my presentation, and I welcome your questions. Oh, okay. 1 second. I'm so sorry. I forgot one thing. Very quickly, I'm going to show you the portal for DST. So this is actually the portal where what I'm talking about. It's serveonline.in. Serveonline.in. Here you will find all the announcements and funding opportunities that you may be looking for. So there is this tab called Funding Opportunities. Here, all the schemes and fellowships are listed, which you may find useful. So for example, this is IRHPA Startup Research Grant for new faculty, like first 2 years, right? Core Research Grant, then imprint. Then if I talk about fellowships, then there is this Teachers Association for Research Excellence. I'll just quickly show you this. This is basically for mobility of faculty members who are working in a regular capacity in state university colleges or in private academic institutions, where you can carry out research in an IIT, IISc, or IISER, where you'll have to identify a mentor and then write a proposal. So for this year, this is closed, but this may be of interest in future. Then there is this tab called announcement, where you can actually find out how many announcements are closed, what proposals are currently open with deadlines, right? So like these are currently ongoing. What are upcoming proposals? So all this and all the details, eligibility criteria, everything is written in details here. So please feel free to explore these schemes, programs, and fellowships. So this is where I end my presentation, and I'm open to questions now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam.
Thanks.
One important announcement, dear participants, the feedback form link is shared in the chat box. Please fill it. And the e-certificate will be issued in 3 working days, only to those participants who has filled the feedback form. Okay. Madam, thank you very much for such a knowledge loaded session, which was very informative, and also it has motivated us to take up a step ahead in writing a research proposal.
Thank you.
So, yeah, you have thrown light on the criteria for research proposal, review of a status of research and development, components of a research proposal, how to have a good work plan with good research objectives and methodology, proper time schedule and time management, and also funding support and the process. Madam, with your permission, can we take up question and answers?
Certainly. Yes, please.
Madam, there are n number of questions. I will pick few of them. I'm
also seeing them from the chat. So there's a question on any agreement being required. So it depends. So when you are committing to a certain project, right, that you will execute this project. So financial agreement is not required usually. But your institution needs to validate or verify that you are a faculty member there. In case you leave the institute, then what will happen to the project? Who will take care? That kind of agreement is usually required. It's not an agreement actually. It's a undertaking.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Madam, the next question is there any influence or impact on the project proposal with respect to reference? Your insights on this?
References, you mean list referees or list of references? What do you mean by references?
I did not get it exactly.
So is the question about list of references?
Yes, yes.
Yes, so always while writing any proposal, your bibliography should contain very reputed sources. Like it should, if it contains transactions, or it contains, reputed SCI journals as source of literature or as background, that would definitely play an impact, have an impact, because there are a lot of spam journals these days, where actually the peer review is literally non-existent. So citing those papers may not always give a very good impression on your proposal. So list of references should be from SCI indexed journals or conferences, reputed tier 1, tier 2 conferences.
Fine, madam. Next question. Can you suggest an online platform where we will be getting updated research proposal topics in science?
So that's what I talked about. For all engineering sciences from the Government of India, there is SERB Online. SERB is the board where they regularly keep updating announcements, and there are various schemes which you might find interesting. So please feel free to check that out. SERBonline.com. One second. SERBonline.in.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Madam, next one. If the principal investigator doesn't have sufficient paper published in SCI journals, in that case, what is the chance of getting funding for applied proposals?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question because just publications, I'm sure, is not the only criteria. idea and how it is expected to be, how the proposal is actually drafted plays a big role. But this question, somebody who has been on a grant review committee will be able to answer.
Thank you, madam. The next one is, which funding agency is better for electronics branch?
So for electronics, DST is there. There is MeitY also, Ministry of IT, Information Technology, MIETY. MeitY is another government agency. And Vishweshwarya there's a Vishweshwarya PhD scheme in which you can take students. But for proposals, I think DST and Inspire, DST also has an Inspire fellowship. That and MeitY, these would be good for electronics and IT. There are many others which I may not be familiar with, but please explore them.
Yes, thank you, madam. Next one, which is the most important part needs to be taken care while writing the research proposals?
So all the parts are very important, but establishing your novelty and proposed methodology, that the approach that you want to use, and clearly writing the budget and how you would be achieving those objectives, that I think is very important. But actually all parts of the proposal are very important because everything has a purpose, right? Every part has a justification which plays a very important role for a reviewer. So all parts are very important, but methodology and identifying the gap, what exactly will be the novelty and how you will solve that, that is one of the most important parts.
Yes, thank you, madam. Madam, the questions are lined up like anything. There are n number of questions. So with your permission, can I share your email ID to the participants so that if they have any specific questions, they can put those questions to you?
Certainly, certainly, absolutely.
Yeah, and one more request from the participants is that, can they get the presentation?
Sure.
The copy of the presentation.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So whatever I have shown in the presentation today, this is actually directly from the SERB or DST project template. Like when they ask for project proposals, they give a template, right? So all these sections are from there. I have no problem. I'll share the presentation with you and you can share it with everyone.
Madam, one specific question.
Yeah.
Is funding will be given to the simulation oriented projects?
Yes. I don't think a physical device needs to be always be the outcome. If it's a hardware, that's great. But many a times in theoretical research, the output may be an algorithm or an app or a technology, right? So simulation oriented projects will give you funding for simulation software. They'll give you funding for buying computers. So funding is, I don't think that's a problem.
Yes, madam. Thank you very much. There are, as I told you, the questions are lined up. So it tells us how effective the webinar was. Okay. Yeah, madam. As per the discussion, your email ID will be shared to the participants.
Okay.
And they will be asking you the further questions. Pranama, ma'am.
Sir, yes.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yes, sir. So can we share the mail ID with the feedback form, ma'am? Like
Yes.
when we are sending the certificate?
Yes, I had shared it in my slide as well. It's Rajlakshmi Chauhan at iitj.ac.in. I'll put it here in the chat as well. And you can share it when I have put it in the presentation. So when I share the slides with you, you please feel free to share it or share it ahead. And
One more,
yeah.
One more question. Is there any scheme for women where funding is given for research?
There are certain schemes like in the announcements, when I showed you the announcements page, there is this SERB Women in Excellence Award, right? But for that, certain academies, science academies, like if a woman has received certain recognition, then they can apply for those fields. But I'm not like very clear at this point if there are other schemes particularly for women, but we can certainly find out. I'll find out.
Okay. One more last question. In your opinion, how important is a PI's past or recent publication with regard to approval of a proposal? If there is a time gap in terms of publications, will the proposal still stand a chance?
So here again, this question can be better answered by someone who's on the grant review committee. But it's the quality of the publication that would matter. I think a little bit of time gap should not affect that much, because essentially what you're trying to prove by your publications is that you have the expertise to solve the question that you are proposing, right? You're proposing to solve. So I think there's a chance, but then again, there are like n number of factors which play a role in a proposal getting accepted. The novelty, the clarity, adherence to certain formats, certain documents not being missing. So then expertise and collaborations, a lot of things play a role. So there's certainly a chance, but this question would be better answered by someone from the proposal review committee.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for the session. And I can see in the chat box, it was very effective session. Thank you so much for your time and effort towards this. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pranamya and Mr. Prashant and Dr. Yagneshwaran and everyone from SJC Mangaluru for having me here. Thank you. I really enjoyed being here today. Thank you so much.
So now we have a vote of thanks. Hi all. As all good things come to an end in life, so is the webinar. On behalf of SJEC, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar on writing a research proposal organized by our institute. At the outset, I thank our resource person, Dr. Rajalakshmi Chauhan. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence, madam. We are thankful to you for your time and your valuable webinar. We are thankful to our HOD for their motivation. I would like to thank our principal and management for the support. A special thanks to the organizing committee, teaching and non-teaching staff of SJEC. Our heartfelt thanks to all my dear participants for your active participation. With these warm words and a kind message, we move to the end of today's webinar. So thank you very much. Thank you all.